Welcome, moviegoers. How are we doing? Good? Good. Do you have your ticket? All right, what do we have here? Real Swell. You want to be in Auditorium 35? It's straight ahead and to the right. Enjoy. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Episode 6. Peter, Nico, and Harry are forming a friendship. Harry's being added to the friendship that is already Nico and Peter. But it isn't so much being formed as forced. Peter is trying to loop Harry into the friendship he already has with Nico. And the typical, this friendship is just two people, the third person encroaching, and someone feels a way about it. Storyline has now become a part of the story. Peter, Nico, and Harry are at Peter's apartment and they're having a movie night, and the three of them are trying to get along with each other, not because there's any bad blood or anything. It's just awkward. The two of them trying to jostle for position, Harry and Nico, as Peter's friend. And they don't really know how to do that without one upping the other one. So it's a very awkward situation. Peter then gets called by Norman Osborn to go investigate something at Oscorp. So he has to leave and leave Harry and Nico alone to be awkward together while he goes and tries to figure out what's going on at Oscorp. Norman himself is at a dinner party, and it's a gala, it's a fundraiser. It is an event to raise awareness and to raise money for all of those who were affected by the fight the Avengers had in Lagos. So we are still talking about the Sokovia Accords. We're still trying to hold the Avengers accountable for that. And we even have Thunderbolt Ross, who makes an appearance, and he and Norman are speaking about still trying to find Captain Rogers. So there's this manhunt still going on for all the rogue Avengers who haven't signed the Sokovia Accords and haven't agreed to register, essentially, as super beings. And this is where he first propositions Thunderbolt Ross that if the government needs any help looking for these rogue Avengers, he has an asset that he's been deploying throughout New York. And that asset is Spider-Man. So we learn that Norman isn't on the up and up with Peter, which could have been assumed, but now we are being told. So what I got from that is this entire time he's just using Peter and Spider-Man for his own benefit, for his own gains. He's got something that he's working toward that he's going to use Spider-Man as a pawn to achieve. Spider-Man gets to Oscorp and he notices that Oscorp has in fact been broken into, and he is searching throughout the office. He finds people who are unconscious, and he notices someone leaving the office that he's in. So he follows this person up to the roof, and it's Daredevil. Now it's an unbranded Daredevil, as if he's early on in his career as well. He doesn't have the full red, and there's no emblem that he's sporting either. He does, however, have his batons. So and his helmet, his devil helmet, but it's not full final form Daredevil. He immediately is able to figure out Spider-Man's fighting style, of course, he's got heightened senses, so he's able to hear the webs coming at him, whether they were web bombs or the web strings, and he's parrying and blocking all of Spider-Man's attacks as far as hand-to-hand combat, and he's really just embarrassing Peter in this fight. We also continue to be told that there is no spider sense. I'm not sure what they're waiting for or when it's going to be developed, but throughout this fight, he cannot tell what's happening based on his spider sense that, again, doesn't exist yet. But Daredevil says to Peter, listen, I know that you're young, I know that you're trying to do the right thing, but fighting me isn't the right thing. Norman is hiding something, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. And by this time, he has incapacitated Peter, and then he is able to get away, leaving Peter to have to call for help. Actually, no, a security guard comes up and gives him a phone, and it's Norman saying, hey, I'm pulling into the garage. I'll be up to the roof. Give me a second. All the while, Peter is freaking out because he needs to get back to his apartment because he's been gone for however long this has been, and Nico and Harry are just fending for themselves. Well, we get a glimpse of what that is. They are awkwardly sitting on opposite ends of this couch, stuttering, trying to think of things to talk about, and Nico finally just says, I'm just going to call Peter because we need to figure out why he's been gone so long. Because he didn't tell them, of course. He went to go investigate something. He just made up an excuse and left. Well, as she's reaching for her phone, she notices she has these tarot cards in her jacket. Harry notices them, and he says, oh, that's really cool. Are those tarot cards? And Nico gets excited. This is a genuine interest of hers. So she says, oh, you know what this is? I wouldn't have expected that. Do you want me to give you a reading? And Harry excitedly agrees. So they get about halfway through the reading, and Harry says something about picking up a card and trying to match it to one of the ones that's already lying down. And that doesn't make sense because that's not how tarot cards work. Which Nico says that, because I thought you were into this. And Harry goes, no, not really. I don't really believe it. I think it's cool, but I don't believe in that thing. So Nico gets saddened and upset, and then she goes into how Peter and her are best friends and nothing is going to change that. Harry agrees, like, I'm not trying to make this weird. I just don't have friends either. And I'm glad to have met Peter. And Nico then continues, I understand that, but from day one, it's been Peter and I. We have our backs, and I know all of his secrets. He tells me everything, and I tell him everything. Which leads Harry to say, all secrets? Even that he's Spider-Man. Now, they cut away from the scene right before he gets to say the words Spider-Man, but when Peter gets back to the apartment, we learn that he did, in fact, tell Nico, because he already thought she knew, based on what she just said, that he is Spider-Man. Peter is Spider-Man. Well, Nico kind of jokingly confronts Peter about it. Oh, he says you're Spider-Man. I don't believe him. And they jostle. She grabs for his backpack, and it falls to the floor. His mask and all of his drawings for his suit hit the floor and spill out. And upset that she thought she knew everything about her best friend, she leaves. Within this episode as well, we have Lonnie Lincoln, who is struggling with being a part of this gang and juggling life at home, life at school, and his relationship with Pearl. He is getting kicked off of the football team because he stopped going to practice, stopped showing up to games, and he is being suspended from school as well because he's not showing up to classes. Now, Pearl, who is in the relationship with him, wants to know what's going on. Why won't he talk to her? And he brushes her off as well because he doesn't know how to deal with everyone's expectations of him, but now he's in this gang. But while he's in this gang, that pressure of all those expectations don't exist. So he'd rather go do that. So that's what he does. He just leaves. It's the middle of school, middle of the day in school, and he just leaves. Well, his brother, Dre, joined that gang to also escape the expectations of living in Lonnie's shadow. So the two of them have this conversation that Dre believes it's unfair that he is now the person who is the mess up in the family. But Lonnie isn't supposed to be because he's the one who's got everything to lose. He shouldn't be making these decisions. Dre feels as though it only made sense for him to join this gang because he couldn't do anything else. He didn't think he had any value within that family. So he figured, oh, I can go do this instead and not have to worry about Lonnie's image and shadow hovering over me. Lonnie doesn't accept that. He says, you should actually thank me because you don't have to do this. Your whole life is ahead of you still, even though Lonnie's is too. Your whole life is still ahead of you, and I'm going to take this rap instead. So he goes back to the hideout, and as he's on his way there, he's being followed by one of the opposite gang's members, the Scorpions. And she just follows him, just trying to freak him out in order to get to the hideout. She just wants to know where it is. And that was the entire plan, just to follow him, not accost him or anything, but just chase him a little bit and then lead her to the hideout. We learn that Mac Gargan has teamed up with Otto Octavius to obtain his scorpion suit. It's really just a chest plate and the tail, which is comically long for some reason. And I know this is a comic book cartoon adaptation, but it's still comically long. And again, yeah, it's very basic. Again, just a chest plate, and the tail and the stinger, it just feels like it's sharp. It doesn't feel like it secretes anything. So I'm curious how the evolution of his suit is going to happen. But Otto Octavius is still trying to put the word out of his genius. We learn from Norman Osborn that while the two of them worked together, there were a lot of weapons, a lot of technology that the two of them worked on that Otto stole and went off to go do something else. That's what Norman tells us. Because he didn't feel he was getting the recognition that he thought he deserved, he left Oscorp and took all of the designs. Now, take that with a grain of salt, given what we learned about Norman in the beginning of the episode. But that's where we are now. Norman is out on the streets. Not Norman, Otto is out on the streets and selling and or giving away and upgrading all of his tech to spread word that he is actually a genius as well in this field. Now, as I watched this episode, one thing came to mind, and that was Peter Parker doesn't feel like the main character. Through these 6 episodes, Lonnie Lincoln feels more like the main character. Out of all of the development that we've gotten for any of these characters, Lonnie Lincoln seems to be the one who's getting the most of it. And that isn't an issue. It's interesting. It's nice to learn about these characters. But I think they're taking for granted we know who Peter Parker is, or we know what the name is. But this Peter Parker, we haven't met yet. And the only personality traits that we are given is he's quippy, he's very young and immature, and he's eager to please. But that could be said about any of the iterations of Spider-Man that we've already gotten. But who is this Peter Parker, is my question. Throughout these 5 episodes, it feels like the character we're getting to know the most is Lonnie Lincoln. Thank you for coming to this screening of Real Swell. I noticed he had a lot to say about this one. Hopefully it wasn't too much. At any rate, as you head out, I've got 3 things to ask of you. 1, pick up your trash. These ushers don't get paid enough. 2, make sure that you are following so you don't miss the next screening. And 3, hit that heart for me. I'll see you next time. Make sure you've got your ticket.